Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm, of course, your host, World of Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about my personal opinions on testing in World of Tanks Blitz as an entire whole for all of the servers. Now, I've got two very strong opinions for testing, so let me know what you guys think about my opinions in the comments down below. If you do agree with them or you disagree, please let me know, because these are two things that I've been trying to write on for a very long time and develop my own personal opinions on, and I think I finally developed them enough so where I can tell the entire public in my personal ways that I do feel testing should be on all of the servers in World of Tanks. Now, currently testing is for the high and elite in Blitz. Only the top clans, so for North America, you've got clans like Hated, Rain, Pramo, Void, only the top 10% of clans, and not even 10%. Maybe I would say 5% of the clans on the NA server have access to testing. Man, that shot really got me sad there. But yeah, it's quite hard to get your hands on testing. I think the main way you actually have to get it is to finish like top 8 in the professional tournaments, so it's very, very tricky to get your hands on testing in the first place. And a lot of people only want to join specific clans because of testing. So one thing that I personally feel should be done for testing is that it should be an open test type of server thing. On the RU server, every now and then, like when I tried out the TVP 5051, you're able to get your hands on these vehicles and test them, but the issue is that nobody plays on the open test server in the RU because it's still only open to a specific number of people. I had to get an account given to me by one of my friends so that I had access to the test server, and it's still only a handful of people that are select that are able to use it. That is, in my opinion, still really not open test. The way the open test server should work in World of Tanks is that each server should get their own open test, or it could be all the servers get one main open test server, and you're able to sign into your normal account on that server, and it would let you test the new vehicles. It's something that I find very, very strong, at least in my personal opinion, because what's the point of testing a vehicle if you're only letting the high and elite test it? If you're getting a player like Fatness, so you're getting a player that is one of the top NA clans. If you're getting players from CIS, testing the vehicle anywhere, and you're getting these super duper strong people to test vehicles that, might only perform strong for good players, you're not really getting a good consensus on how that vehicle is going to perform. Exhibit A, the Sheridan missiles when it came into the game. Oh, by the way, you probably know where that shot came from if you have been paying attention to the channel lately. But it is something that I don't really like, is that testing will sometimes bring a vehicle into the game that maybe isn't in the right state of mind because testers played it and not the general public. A good example of that would probably be maybe like the TVP 5051. Testers might do fantastic in it, or they might perform very, very poor. So when Wargaming buff a vehicle, they also have to remember that the general public might respond to that very, very differently in how it's played. Testers could do very well in a tank, get it nerfed, but the general public could do awful in it as well. And that's one thing that I do find very, very relevant in some of the testing vehicles in Blitz, and it's very important, especially when premium vehicles come into the game. So that's one thing that I do find very strong in the testing server. And it's something that I do hope Wargaming does iron out in the future, is that open test should be a thing. I don't know why Wargaming's so scared on people knowing the stats of vehicles, because right now, pretty much Pantoof, even Meadsy are able to get our hands. I don't think Meadsy really does it because he is part of the CC, but at least for Pantoof and I, we are easily able to get our hands on vehicle statistics, especially from Blitzhanger or our moderators, way before the testers are allowed to say anything. And what's the point? We know how the tanks perform because we can see them being driven. We've watched the testers play them. We can use our own replays showing the testers playing them. And yeah, we can state our own opinions on how we think the tanks are going to play, but yet the people driving them themselves aren't allowed to state their opinions publicly on how they think the vehicle they tested is. Doesn't that sound a little stupid to all of you? Yeah, it definitely sounds a little bit botched to me. I feel that testers should be able to state their own opinions on the vehicle. I actually tested the Progetto 46, and actually on the Wargaming side, I don't think I'm still even today allowed to say how the vehicle was when I tested it, because that breaks the EULA if you were a tester. That makes no sense. And Wargaming, if you're watching this, please do change that. Testers should be able to state their opinions on vehicles as they are testing them. It would make it way better for balancing tanks in the future, and as well, it would give the public a way better idea of how a vehicle is. You know, a good example of that would be like the AMX Defender. You didn't test the AMX Defender at all. It came out released, and it was nothing. Nobody really bought the AMX Defender. You'll notice, literally, it was one of the least bought Tier 8 vehicles, especially for a Defender series. The T-28 Defender, super well bought and well known. The Mark 1 Defender, super well bought, and the IS-3 Defender was one of the most overpowered vehicles of its time. But yeah, not anymore. The AMX Defender really got no love, and I completely agree with everybody's decision on not buying it. It's just a worse AMX 1390, and it's pretty much an AMX 1375 just brought up a tier with the exact same damage per minute and more penetration. So I understand why a lot of people didn't buy it. If testers were able to play that tank and voice their opinions on how they felt it played publicly, I bet that a lot of people, especially Wargaming, would take notice and be like, okay, either we're not going to sell a lot of these because these testers just said the tank sucks, or we can buff it, and then a lot of people will buy it. That's one thing I do find very, very strong. The second thing that I don't like about testing is the fact that good players are able to keep stats on these vehicles after they're out of testing. A good example of this could be the Kronwagen. Now, I was trying to set really, really good records in my Kron because I'm one of the top Kron players in NA, at least. It's one thing that I'm very happy about are my stats in it. And it's not a brag or anything like that because you really can't brag about your stats. I could say I am one of the top Kron players in NA, and it wouldn't mean diddly squat because there's people out there that are in Rain and Pramo that were able to test the Kron when it was in testing, and they won't play the tank after it's been released on their main accounts because they've played 100 games while it's been in testing, and they've got the best stats in that vehicle. They've got over 4,000 average damage because, yeah, the Kron, believe it or not, was actually even better in testing. It went faster, and to what I'm aware, it actually had a better gun on most of the statistics, which gave the Kron a lot better average damage. And yeah, after it came out of testing, by the way, this poor T-25 too, but after the Kron came out of testing, a person that wants to set 4,000 average damage, yeah, good luck. They've made the vehicle a lot worse when it came out. A good example of that as well would be the AMX M454, or the Emil 1951. The Emil 1951 is a much nerfed release of the original state of that tank. When it was first in testing, the tank was absolutely ridiculously overpowered. And the people that tested that vehicle, we can say Fatness, any of the Rain players, any of the Pramo players, most of these people aren't spending their money to get their hands on the vehicle. So what they'll do is they'll play 100 games in the tank, they'll get ridiculously strong stats, 3,500 average damage, blah, 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 and then you'll never beat it because a player that does play competitively but didn't test is now playing a tank that is much more nerfed compared to the state of that vehicle when it was in testing, and they'll never be able to beat those stats because a vehicle like the AMX M4 or the Emil 1951 just doesn't stack up in any way, shape, or form. Another example is that people testing actually have worse stats when those vehicles aren't testing. A good example of that would be like the FE 4005. That vehicle was worse in testing than when it came into Blitz. Another example of that could be the TVP 5051, which was just in testing. That vehicle statistically is worse when it was in testing than it is now currently. So people that are forced to test these vehicles are going to have worse stats than it would be for a player that is currently playing the vehicle just on the live normal public servers. So it goes vice versa, but I personally don't find that people that are testing tanks should have statistics that are relevant on their main account, because it is annoying to see a player in Blitz Stars that has played 100 games and the last time you've seen them play it was in the tank's testing stats, and they're absolutely smoking the competition. There's no point for competition at that point, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so happy about actually my Emil 2 statistics, because statistically my Emil 2 is one of the top places overall in all the servers. Compared to my Kron, I couldn't care less about because the Kron was in testing, and you just can't get any really strong numbers or base opinions on it because of the testers that played them. So this is a strong opinion that I personally hold, and I do think it is the right opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. But it would be very, very easy for Wargaming to duplicate the file and just make a different ID for the test tanks. They could either make them all collectors, and that way the testers could just play the tanks, they take them out of their account, and it's a separate vehicle, so that it would be easier for players to understand how well the test tanks are doing in the current testing status, and as well, it would be better for them don't affecting the current players, should I say, competitiveness on vehicles coming into the game. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well out there. Stay happy, stay healthy, and to be seeing you in the next one.